April 20th, 2010. A catastrophic day in history. One many consider to be the worst environmental disaster the United States has ever seen. Over the course of 87 days, nearly 5 million barrels of oil spilled into the Gulf of Mexico, following an explosion on the Deepwater Horizon rig. The massive spill impacted an estimated 68,000 square miles of water and shoreline across 5 states. Despite favorable conditions like warm water, calm seas, and plenty of resources, it took almost a full 5 months before the well was officially sealed. Containing the drifting oil and cleaning the shorelines took even longer. More than a decade earlier, this was the scene from what was one of the most devastating human-caused environmental disasters ever, and it happened right here in Alaska. The year was 1989, when the Exxon Valdez left the port of Valdez and hit Bligh Reef, dumping 11 million gallons of crude oil into Prince William Sound. It's a reality that concerns scientists like Ted Maxim, who conducts research with world-renowned Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution based in Massachusetts. With the Arctic's new oil frontier gaining traction off Alaska's northern coast, Maxim worries. What if a spill the size of the one in the Gulf happens here?
What if you have an oil spill in the Arctic where it's cold, the oil doesn't degrade very easily, and then you have sea ice covering it up? And it can be very hard to, first of all, find that, but also to clean that up.
A situation that could potentially present a long-term environmental problem.
I think it's hard to say. I guess the best lesson we have is from the Exxon Valdez. And that was devastating for the ecosystems in southeast Alaska. And you can go along beaches now in Cordova and places like that, dig down beneath the surface. You can still find a little bit of oil there.
And then there was this, the haunting images of what's left of the Silindang IU, a nearly 40,000-ton cargo ship that in 2004 was literally split in two after losing power and running aground in the Aleutians after being pummeled by harsh winds and heavy seas, dumping more than 330,000 gallons of fuel into Alaska's waters. 6 members of the crew were lost during a failed rescue attempt. As difficult as these pictures are to see, the Silindang IU spill is only 1.5% of what was spilled into the Gulf. But most recently, it was the Kullik, one of Shell Oil's 2 Arctic drilling platforms that ran aground off the coast of Kodiak Island in what was the final act in a string of scenes and incidents that reminded the world just how difficult it is to operate off Alaska's coast. For much of the year, this part of the world is dominated by extreme storms, sub-zero temperatures, darkness, and unpredictable drifting ice packs. But during the summer months, things have begun to change here according to scientists. An area long inhabited primarily by Alaska natives is now attracting attention from the world. With increased traffic from polar cruise ships traveling through the Northwest Passage, more commercial shipping traffic, and the potential for increased Arctic drilling, the Coast Guard has made the region more of a priority.
With the fact that there's increasing Arctic maritime traffic, it was important that the Coast Guard be able to execute all of its statutory missions in the Arctic, even better than we had before.
According to the Coast Guard, vessel traffic through the Arctic and Bering Strait has more than doubled, with nearly 480 vessels crossing through the Arctic in 2012. The Coast Guard began implementing a community outreach program in 2008 and added forward operating locations in 2012 as part of Arctic Shield, which was rolled out last summer.
The first Arctic Shield was in 2012 and began with bringing together lots of capabilities and partners in order to be able to execute missions in the Arctic even better than we had been doing in the past.
Have fun out there.
While the Coast Guard has several missions here, the focus is outreach, operations, and capability assessment.
I think what you're seeing is our ability to adapt and change, and as conditions change, as the need increases, the Coast Guard will adapt and change as well.
But as the Coast Guard adapts and changes, so too does the ice pack, a moving mass that scientists say lately has been retreating.
We have to be prepared, and with this challenging environment, we have to be prepared up here as well.
Along with a challenging environment, Coast Guard officials say response logistics create one of the biggest issues.
The coastline of Alaska exceeds that of the rest of the continental United States. And with those distances in remote locations come challenges.
Should an emergency arise in the Arctic, responders with specific expertise could be thousands of miles away, including Coast Guard icebreakers in the case of the Arctic.